For over half a century, humans have endeavored to make business a force for good. But is the movement working? Or is it time to explore a new path forward? Welcome to Less Talk, More Action. We are your hosts, Joel Caesar and Owen Barrett, experts in clean energy, net zero real estate, decarbonization, and entrepreneurship. In each episode, we ask provocative questions and share stories from the front lines of sustainability with leaders in science, tech, and business taking real action to design a cleaner, better future. Thanks for joining the conversation. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to Less Talk, More Action podcast. My name is Joel Caesar, the world's undisputed voice of building decarbonization. Joining me as always is Owen Barrett, the self-proclaimed Adam Newman of green building. Today's guest, Chris Pyke, a legend in the green building industry, probably one of the few people who might challenge my title as the voice of building decarbonization, but let's give him his due. Dr. Chris Pyke, Chief Innovation Officer at GRESB, where he leads innovation, communications, and the work of the GRESB Foundation. So usually at this point, we go into like a bit. That's just something funny we do that's not totally related to the guest, but we were kind of so enamored with this guest, and I know a few people who are friends of the show were excited because you and I can take shots at GRESB, and we've been critical of the reporting infrastructure of commercial real estate, and so there was hopefully going to be people interested in this conversation. So instead of a bit, we're just going to take a minute to reflect on what we learned from Chris. So I'll pass it to you first. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a good one because we do talk a lot of shit about reporting, and it was really interesting to hear it straight from Chris's mouth. He was kind of critical of companies complaining that reporting takes so long. His vision is for there to not be a reporting season. And so I'm curious what the disconnect is between GRESB, the organization, and the users of GRESB, and how can we solve that sort of mismatch? How can we streamline reporting and make it more in line with what Chris and GRESB think reporting should be?
Yeah, I appreciate how he took a shot back at us right away, kind of calling bullshit on our name, Less Talk, More Action. And I mean, to build up what you said, again, I totally agree. Like, I found it fascinating that he's critical of the companies out there that are telling people like you and I who are trying to deploy solutions, like, sorry, I'm in reporting season. Like, he's critical of them. Like, it shouldn't take you this long. That's a you problem. That's not a GRESB problem. So I love that perspective. I love how we got to ask a little bit more about the rooms he's in with these super influential $1 trillion investors, the ones who, again, like I said in the podcast, top of the food chain, who kind of like are making excuses about what they think they need to do. It's like, no, you don't need to do anything. You are the ones controlling this whole ecosystem. And and the last point too, like he kind of hated this idea that there are entire companies right now that exist, and all they do is tell you, their value proposition is, I can help you improve your GRESB score. And he almost had a visceral reaction. He hated that.
Yeah, no, it was a good one. I think it was really, I mean,
it was refreshing.
It was interesting to hear his perspective on everything, because we've only complained about reporting and heard from other people about how arduous it is. So it's interesting to hear his take.
Yeah. Well, what we'll continue to do on the show is have fun, make fun of each other, be provocative, but then bring on the guests who we might be taking shots at and let them take shots back at us, and hopefully all learn together and advance our industries forward. Like, that's a cool part of what we get to do here.
Yeah.
So with that, let's jump into our conversation with Chris Pyke. Joining us today is Dr. Chris Pyke, Chief Innovation Officer at GRESB, where he leads innovation, communications, and the work of the GRESB Foundation. An environmental scientist by training, Chris has built his career at the intersection of research, technology, and sustainability. He previously served as Senior Vice President at ARC's Guru, part of the U.S. Green Building Council family, Chief Strategy Officer for Aclima, and as a research scientist at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Chris also serves on the faculty of Georgetown University's Urban and Regional Planning program. He holds both an MA and PhD from the University of California, Santa Barbara, go Gauchos, and is widely recognized as a leader in advancing data-driven approaches to sustainable real estate and climate solutions. Chris Pyke, welcome to the Let's Talk More Action podcast.
Hey, Joel. Hey, Owen. Great to be here.
Thanks for coming on.
All right, Chris. Well, we get right to work. We start our guests off with the same question. How are you taking action to make the world a better place?
All right. Well, I'll start with the basics. I mean, for me, two most important things. Raising 2 kids, hopefully citizens of the world, and soon to be. We foster cats. We've had like over 50 of them, and we got 9 in this house right this second who are going out the door. And I spend my day, hopefully, trying to create constructive engagements between investors and managers such that leads to better places for people in the environment. That's what I think I'm doing, at least that I'll go that far.
Well, Chris, I love that you foster cats, and I have 2 little girls as well, so definitely hear the citizens of the world thing. But being the Let's Talk More Action and having a lot of our audience in the clean tech and sustainability, I'm curious on the last part of your little explanation of how you're making the world a better place. So can you just dive into what exactly you're doing between real estate and investors, and what you're doing more specifically?
Absolutely. So let me go a little deeper. So my day job is with GRESB. So GRESB is a Dutch company, been around for 15 years. And this is my second time around at GRESB. So I formerly served as Chief Operating Officer. Today I serve as Chief Innovation Officer. What that really means is I got 3 hats on. Anything that is not in the current product roadmap is something I get to help execute. So things that we think the market needs or changing needs and expectations. 2, we develop standards through the GRESB Foundation. And 3, we tell people about it through the marketing function. So that's my day job, is sitting right at the intersection between institutional investors and the property companies and funds that they invest in for both real estate and infrastructure. So we try to create a constructive engagement between those 2 parties. We do it in about 80 different countries around the world.
Well, Chris, I've known you a long time from USGBC leadership days, and I think a lot of the industry looks up to you as a thought leader, as do I. Owen especially, I'm going to throw him under the bus. He's been critical of GRESB on this podcast. So let's get right to the heart of the matter here.
Let's get into it.
Chris, let me frame.
Okay, go ahead.
let me frame where I'm coming from. So I got into sustainability in 2010. And at that point in time, really the only framework I think was LEED, but most of the attention in the industry was getting projects approved on the merit of their financials, or it's just projects in general. How can we do projects to decarbonize? And since 2010, in the last 15 years, it seems like the reporting requirements have almost become more important than doing the actual projects. And my biggest question is always like, how did we get here? How has this become our industry? And I'm not putting all of the blame on GRESB, but it's part of the reporting industry. So curious to get your take on like the evolution of it and just how you feel about it.
I'm happy to engage in it, and I know where you guys are coming from, so I'm happy to talk about it. So let me jump in at that kind of, and go back to my top issue on this, saying I think we all believe in the idea of less talk, more action, to go to the thing. However,
he doesn't like our name, Owen. He's taking shots at our name now.
Which I love.
More talk, less action.
But we're gonna start, because I will go right at it. It's a false dichotomy. There's basically, we're not talking about an either or outcome. We need more action and more transparency. And I think what we're calling talk is transparency. And for me, the idea here is we're rooted in trying to provide investors with actionable transparency and helping them use that in a constructive way. Now, we're going to go down this road and talk about reporting generally. That's true. But the key thing about GRESB from the beginning is that from the reason I'm with GRESB, the reason I helped GRESB exit from Maastricht University to become its own company back in the day, was that I believe in constructive engagement between investors and managers. And the issue was not to create reporting. Never was reporting for reporting's sake. It was reporting to drive constructive engagement and continuous improvement. So for me, as someone who came out of the green building movement, I spent over a decade with USGBC, and what I got frustrated with green building is the box that project teams are in. They are given a little bit of latitude to maneuver, but the issue is controlled by owners and investors, whether it's capital or mandates. And so the question is, how do you enlarge the box? You enlarge the box by dealing with the owner and the investor directly and creating some kind of value proposition. What I found compelling from GRESB to begin with is GRESB was before ESG was a thing. It was before reporting was a thing. It was a spin out of the GRI community, recognizing that we needed a different set of tools to support indirect property investment. And the issue was,
when was it started?
This is 2009. So GRESB was a thing in 2009. And then I really came into it a couple of years later with Nils Koch and the folks from Maastricht University. And for me, that's what I found so powerful about it. Is I was looking to get out of the box around green building, where you could kind of move, you could move items around as you could plug and play this technology or that technology, but you could only do so much, right? And I wanted to know how could we do more? So I'll kind of bring this to a landing in a second. But the issue was, the way that I understand it is we're trying to take that moment of that financial moment of truth, which constitutes in the case of GRESB Classic, like your annual engagement, the one time a year you get to sit down with your investor and have them have some buy-in over the course of their investment to you getting better. And that's really what it was about. Now, reality has a way of getting in the way of that. And so we can talk about how we got from what remains of that original thesis to how it's been interpreted in the marketplace and what do we need to do next. But for me, the way I got here and what I think we do is drive progress through that annual engagement cycle, and we have more ways to do that in the future. But I really want to disentangle this issue of reporting from ESG, from the idea of how are we using this interface between investors and managers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's cool to understand the history. I have to admit, Chris, I have not ever done GRESB. I've not been a part of a process to submit and gather data. I'm at a company now that is benefiting, you might say, from the process of companies needing to organize their data in an efficient way and submit to GRESB. So let's all agree we're trying to do all the same thing in this industry. But I'll kind of tee up my question, and it might be almost the same question as Owen, but just frame it a little differently. Where I've come to this idea of man, the reporting just really seems to be a burden. And I know, I'm looking at the notes we shared a little bit before the episode, like we do with guests. And I know you're going to say, look, I don't believe there is a tension between reporting and action. But I guess maybe you can respond to a story Owen and I have heard a lot. We've both been people who have sold energy conservation project implementation to commercial real estate owners. We've spent time doing this, and we've heard from those people, great product. I believe in what you're doing. I'd love to do it, but I'm stuck in reporting season. So come back to me in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And Owen and I, and probably lots of people have been like, man, how is this why is it such a burden that they can't do the thing that they're supposed to be reporting on improving? And so one quick anecdote there is we had Becca Timms, who used to be at Jamestown, on earlier, and we were taking a little shot at GRESB maybe, and she was like, maybe you two just aren't good at what you're doing, and the owners are just telling you that to get you off their back. So let's qualify. Maybe that's what's happening. But I guess just for you to respond to, you must hear it, right, in the industry, hey, this reporting thing's taking a lot.
And there's multiple facets to it. Okay, so one, let's start with intent. The intent was never for this to be a burdensome exercise. The goal was to create transparency between investor and investment. One, intent. Two, yes, there are a cadre of folks for whom complexity is the point, right? We also never intended this to become filled with consultants who advise this process to death in some ways.
Entire businesses that are set up to help improve a GRESB score is what happens.
Which was not how this is supposed to work, right? This is supposed to be, in my view, an in-house process that is as simple as tell me, was it really inspired by ISO 14001, basically saying it's a plan, do, check, act cycle, right? And we're trying to say, all right, what's your plan? What are you doing? Are you checking? And are you iterating based on that concept? And so all the things are a wrapper around that. So I get frustrated when we add complexity to that process. And I want that process to be as simple as possible, but also as transparent with regard to that. I want to know who's in charge. I want to know what's the plan. I want to know what they're doing and how it worked, right? So at essence, we want to strip away everything that's not that. So to that end, we understand that if you look at the stages of impact of GRESB, so basically you take the market back to where it was 10 years ago. And we were working on, for many companies, they were just establishing basic elements of management. Did you have a team? Who was in charge? Do you have data? Cool. All right, we have progressed to that end. So now that is common practice. And so for GRESB today, we're introducing something we call GRESB fundamentals, which says, hey, these 17 things that 80% of people do, they're going to be things you only have to do every 3 years, and they're going to represent the bread and butter. And we're going to ask you to focus on data and performance. On the other hand, this issue of where's the real effort, it's actually in data and performance, which is where we want you to spend your time. And so let's bring it back for a second. The real reason I'm going to get on the soapbox about reporting versus action is that, come on, action is good. We might spend $100,000 or a couple $100,000. And keep in mind, almost all of that's not going to GRESB. So the issue is but that's not the money we need to spend on action, whether it's new air handlers or chillers or strategies. We need to be spending a lot more to a CapEx plan and trying to fight to take that money away from the basic transparency you need to give your investor is not where that money is going to be found. So are we setting up a fight between that if we win the fight and we say, all right, no more reporting and only more action, you will have earned $100,000 toward action and you will have eliminated the transparency you need to interact with your
But it's not the $100,000. It's the time, isn't it? Like the time folks are spending. What say you to that?
I get two things on time. One, this time is a skill dependent thing. This is one of those things that for folks who have institutionalized systems, they can do this quickly with templates and pre-filling and automation. This can be an efficient exercise. It doesn't have to be that hard. And when it comes to time, we don't tell ourselves, hey, we're going to get rid of the finance department to fund the innovation department, right? We need a finance department, and you need an IR department. And so the problem is yes.
So are you critical of entities that say it takes me 4 months to do GRESB? Are you like?
I am a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I mean, because I'm like, I really want to go to them and go, okay, let's help. Let's make that less, because it was never supposed to be 4 months. And it doesn't have to be, right? Are you using the tools? Are you putting systems in place? And maybe are you internalizing it? Like, this should be something that's a core part of your company, because you're going to want to be transparent about what you do and what you achieve. So are you making it are you focusing on process improvements? And those who do, they can make this faster and easier. And this is anyway. So I am a little critical, but hopefully in a constructive way. Like, come on.
I think it's cool for you to say that. I think that's powerful for the industry to hear.
I think, Chris, one of the things so Joel and I have been going to this conference the last couple of years. It's the IMN ESG conference, and
Chris is there too.
Oh, you're there.
Been there.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
there with
So
you.
one of the patterns that seemed to be emerging this year was like reporting fatigue, which I've never heard before. But hearing you say that you're critical of companies that take 4 months to report is interesting. Have you guys, at the beginning, you alluded to what you guys are doing next within GRESB. Have you ever polled your participants to see how long their reporting season is and then offered solutions to try and fast track it for them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is, okay, we are on board that reporting needs to be easier, right? If you look back at our roadmap from last year, we published a roadmap a year ago, and reducing reporting burden is number one, right? It is not something we want. It's not a piece of overhead we want more of. Like, I'm not like, don't get me wrong. Like, this is what we want less of. We want it more efficient, more streamlined. And so the question is we do ask every single year, what is it and what can we do to make it better? And that informs what we do. This year we introduced a new program called Quick Start, trying to help people get started and make that process easier and more internal. We've got pre-filling and templates and better and API connections, and all of this is an attempt to make that process faster and easier. At the end of the day, the thing that makes it, there are a few things that make it hard, and we can really get down and say, what is the value creation of this? I mean, it turns out that collecting asset level performance information remains hard. It's a hard thing to do, and GRESB asks for more of it than anybody else does. But at the same time, because we believe that real estate is an asset-centric thing, we believe at the end of the day, real-world measured outcomes matter. and we have never been okay with estimates. So that makes us hard. We also believe in data quality. We believe in assurance. We believe in things like risk assessments. And okay, so that's where the effort is. So it's a little bit like the early days of commissioning with green building, right? We were all like, what's the single most expensive thing in green building? Generally commissioning, right? So are we for or against commissioning?
We're for.
Like, for any given project, you can make a good argument that commissioning isn't needed. But on a performance basis for the industry, commissioning is a great thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really instructive to get down in the weeds and say, what is it we're talking about exactly when it comes down to this? Because we want less of it in terms of burden, and we want more of action. That's no question.
I'll qualify too, like the data management piece. I've been at Cambio now 6 months. We're an AI-driven data management company. We live in this universe. We're trying to make it easy, streamlined, automated, everything you're saying. Like we want to help people do GRESB as easy as possible. And this is my first time working. I worked at Google, but I wasn't in the software team, and now I am. I'm at a software company. It's what we do. And I'm surrounded by brilliant data scientists and engineers, and we're using AI more than anyone I imagine. It's still really hard. So I guess I'm like acknowledging here, like maybe the dummies like Owen and I are just like, hey, you should do more projects. Should appreciate like this is hard. But I also think this is, if we can come full circle at the early parts of this podcast, like we've come on some really great like insights from you, Chris, just like it'll be good for the industry to hear. I can't wait the next time I pitch somebody and they're like, it's reporting. I'm like, well, no, listen to my podcast. Chris Pyke says it shouldn't take you that long.
And if it does, damn, we want to break those things down, man. Like I love it when people come to me and go, this is a pain in the ass. So last year we had people come to us and go, hey, I'm doing double assurance because I have different financial years. I have a financial year that isn't the year-end year. Okay, let's break that down. Let's make that not the thing, because that was never the point, right? And so to your point, I'll give you an example. Like I'm fascinated by the principled things that are hard. As an example, and this is a place where Matt Ellis and I agree. Like Matt Ellis and I have always talked about at Measurable about the one thing GRESB does is we have this idea of direct and indirectly managed in GRESB, which means we'd make a distinction between can you control that energy source or can you not control it? All right, it's one of the least automatable things in GRESB. But it's also one of the most relatable things from a real estate person. You're like, yeah, I don't control that, so leave me alone. On the other hand, Energy Star doesn't do that. They're just like, hey, it's a whole freaking building, dude. You're responsible for all of it.
We talked about that a ton when I was at Google too, because Google could be the owner, it could be the tenant, it could be build the suit.
Exactly.
And we be like, well, is it scope 1, scope 2? I'm like, I don't know. Are we in charge of it? Then we should do something about it.
And that creates a lot of work, a lot of brain damage that you really can't automate the conclusion to that some of the time. And so anyway, I just wanted to point that out to only say, hey, yeah, I would love to not do that. I would absolutely love to not do that. But I actually don't think I'd be doing justice to real estate professionals by taking that complexity away. So if we're living in that every day about going, is this necessary? Is this valuable? Can we get rid of it? Can we automate it? I mean, sincerely, we are having that conversation. And so we are 100% open to that. Not open to it. That's our conversation.
I mean, Joel, it kind of sounds like our animosity towards reporting needs to be turned towards sustainability people complaining, which is another theme of the show.
Chris said
now
it
you're going to
earlier.
get us all in trouble, dude.
I forget the term Chris said earlier. He kind of called out like certain folks that make it harder than it needs to be, which is real.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I don't know.
I'm on the side. At the end of the day, at the end of the day, what I care about is the relationship between the investor and the manager and the outcomes on the ground. Everything else is orbit around that. So I would add people who are stakeholders in our ecosystem. I mean, that's what I care about. So if we can strip it down to nothing and it drives a positive relationship between those two, that's it. That's where we want to go. So everything that is not in line with that is at risk. And that's okay. That's how it should be, in my view.
Well, I posted on LinkedIn that we were going to have you on, and I asked for some feedback, and some people DM'd me, and a couple people commented below the post. But someone commented, "It's great they're having Chris on." I'll throw out, where does, should GRESB sit in this more action ecosystem? So I think you answered this a little bit, but I guess maybe I'll spin that question and advance it because you've already sort of answered that part of it. But yeah, Chris, what's the 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What's GRESB? You guys want to grow. You want to cover more of the market, I imagine, right? You're a private company now.
Yeah.
And so there's some critique maybe in the zeitgeist, that reporting fatigue, as Owen's mentioning, and I think we're all acknowledging there's that can be a narrative, but there's also a recognition that this is the way the industry works. So yeah, tell us, what's the future of GRESB? Where are you trying to go next?
I mean, I'll tell you what that matters to me. And then the future of GRESB, okay, as a stand, let me break it down into 3 parts. The future of GRESB is determined by the GRESB Foundation. So as a standard, that's who's going to decide. But as a stakeholder in that, as someone who participates in the foundation, who kind of lives our mission, okay, I think I think what we've gotten ourselves up a tree. This is where the action part gets in. I believe the future of our industry writ large is in transforming brown assets to green assets. And I think we've gotten way too spun up. And you said it at the meeting we were at in New York. You were asking, hey, are we over benchmarked?
Yeah.
And I think if you take this to a point where we're saying, I think we're using benchmarks in too narrow, too specific a way, and we're to our own detriment. What I mean by that is we're using benchmarks to define a narrow slice of green, like our European colleagues do with the top 15% of the market, and they're saying, this is green and this is brown. I want to hold the green stuff and I don't want to hold the brown stuff, and away I go. All right, I got no interest in that. Sure, I'll support that because that's what a certain subset wants. But that's not a future that I'm particularly excited by. I'm excited by the other 80%, the other 85% that is sitting out there that needs to be transformed. I don't want to see, ideally, I want the best managers and the best investors to own the worst real estate and over the course of their investment to make it better. And that's not what GRESB does primarily today. But that's what GRESB should do. And so the question is, how do we create the tools that both investors and managers need so that they take that action, hold themselves accountable, and show real world outcomes? And so if I could tell you what I think the future of GRESB is, it's a world where, sure, we will support those green to green investors who want to buy green, hold green, and sell green. Great. But I really want to put my time and energy into supporting the investor who wants to buy low and sell high and really transform that environment and do it, leave no building behind in that way. That's what I think success would look like, and that's a better GRESB in my mind.
Is your perspective of this GRESB 2.0 that all of these green improvements will be market driven, meaning that there's going to have to be some sort of financial metric measured against these improvements? Or do you think more holistically that the market is moving towards green improvements that maybe you can't measure the financial returns on?
I'll go both ways. Can I have both on that, Owen?
Sure.
I mean, I'll go both. In the sense of saying, part of our role is to internalize externalities. There are real tangible impacts on people in the environment that aren't going to be priced and are not priced right. I'm never going to get you there on water. I'm never going to get you there on waste. I'm never going to get you even there on human health if I have to have a price signal like that. On the other hand, I do think that there are fundamental economics of buy low, sell high, which we can get into. So I think that the issue of avoiding brown discounts, capturing green premiums, and repositioning assets is fundamentally economic. It's fundamentally value creating. But all the good stuff is not shown on the balance sheet. So I think we do have to have some expectations that go beyond, and that's going to be where we're kind of both mission and business oriented. And so I want to have that both, because I don't buy the idea that it's all going to be financial bottom line. We're going to have a financial bottom line, we're going to have a risk mitigation, and then we're going to have the right thing to do. And I think actually if you take this to data centers, it's an example. We're working right now on data centers. And you're like, look, we are focusing on material issues to data center developers. We're saying, first, you need power to run the data center. 2, you need a social license to operate so the community doesn't hate your guts and reduce your options. And 3, once you're up and running, you got to be efficient and use that power efficiently to create work in the data center. So yeah, is there a value to being efficient? 100%. Is there value in being able to start the data center by having power and interacting with the utility in a cost-effective way? But can I put a price on community engagement? Yeah, you get to have a data center.
Yeah, it's like there's a story this week, right? There's someone in the Midwest.
I came into real estate in entitlement. And so I have a little different view than others. Like other people came in this industry on an ROI basis. They were like, hey, everything was an energy efficiency project with a payback of 5 to 7 years. I came into this in the early days of AB 32 in California, where Jerry Brown was beating up on people and not letting them have projects, where it was a go, no go thing. And it's like, hey, your return, you get to have a project. And that still influences my thinking. So anyway, Owen, that's a long way of saying, yes, there is a fundamental return, but there's more than just a return at play here.
Well, first I'll add, because I just, the data center, it's such an interesting example. I was just reading an article about one of the data centers in the Midwest, I guess, is draining all the water, and there's like the community is running out of water already. So yeah, like those stories are coming. And that's a segue to a question I was going to ask Chris. This is another one someone DM'd me to ask you, saying, it's cool that you're asking questions and people have to file reports. Again, maybe I'm not understanding completely how GRESB works for like biodiversity, for water management, for waste management, but is there conversations ever at GRESB like maybe we should just focus on energy because that's more data clarifying, right? That's like clearer for us.
Yeah. Okay. So we talk about we're talking about more segmentation, both thematic and sectoral. Okay. So we're talking about, so when it comes to that, there is a constituency who says, hey, I'm just in this for the GHG emissions. I'm just in this for the energy cost savings. And this is where I can go down the road Owen was going down on terms of cost savings. Sure, if that's your investment thesis, you are investing for cost reduction, 100%. We want to support you with insights on that. But as a green building person, as a mission person, that's not all I signed up for. And that's actually, so I've always been loath to embrace that kind of energy-only approach because I didn't get into green, because energy-only isn't a green building. Energy is used to the benefit of the occupants. And so I've always, so we kind of have it upside down. So do I acknowledge that we've got carbon-only people, we got energy-only people? Sure. Do I personally believe they're leaving a big chunk of value on the table as well as responsibility? Absolutely. So, as a business person, will I serve those people? 100% to the best of my ability. Do I think that there's a even better way and there's more value? 100%. Again, I have to have it both ways. So that's part of a duality that we live in with this.
Owen, Chris and I are environmentalists who see the whole picture. Where Owen's one of these energy costs only.
I don't give a shit about water and animals. It's energy or nothing.
No, I don't give a shit if I save a lot of energy if I got no animals and I got no wildlife and I got crappy indoor air. I honestly don't.
And your community has no drinking water left.
I don't want that. Like, I didn't sign up for that.
Chris, this may be a bit of a self-serving question, but this came up on an earlier podcast that we recorded. So obviously, I think we can all agree that the real estate industry is not necessarily an innovative one. It's not a fast-moving one. I think a lot of the most innovative and effective companies are sort of newer companies, Cambio, Shine included, where maybe we don't have a ton of case studies, a ton of traction within the industry. How can we use reporting or GRESB to incentivize the adoption of newer companies, newer technologies? Because I think that would push the needle in terms of whether it's decarbonization, water, animals, whatever your metric is.
I remember this question. Let me just help clarify too, Chris. Someone, I forget who it was, Owen, but yeah, they talked about how they wish there was more incentive for them as a head of sustainability to deploy some new tech that could be game changing, but isn't going to help their GRESB score.
Yep. 100%. Okay, thank you. Actually, whoever said that, thank you. Okay, so
I think
things
it was
about
Jack.
that.
It was Jack Rusk. Do you know Jack Rusk at C-Scale?
Okay, I'm passionate about this one. So I'm passionate about all of it, but this thing in particular. So I got into this because we're trying to create the dynamic I want to create in GRESB is what are the solutions the best people are using? Who are your peers, and what are they doing to achieve real impact? By making the how of their performance more visible. So if Cambio comes up with a new way to understand energy performance and guide you to solutions that drive, say, 10% year-over-year change in energy use, I want the next question to be, Joel, how the frick did you do that? And I want them to be able to go to Joel and ask Joel that question. GRESB isn't going to answer that question, but we stand a chance of pointing someone to say, Joel helped this office company in Manhattan achieve 10% per year. What I can tell you is that's exceptional, and it was real, and Joel did it. And go talk to Joel. Yeah. And I think by creating a virtuous cycle between measured outcomes, measured impact, and the people and products and services that did it, we need more transparency about that. Because as you said, this is in the like immortal words, the Dan Winters words. It's always everyone in real estate first to be second, right?
Yeah.
So we need to make the first more visible, and in turn, and we know as professionals, it's the who and the what that we want to know, so that we can get on that successful thing and use it in our own second, third, fourth, fifth projects. That's what I want. We want more visibility about that, the how behind the what, and that is totally achievable. And that's why I want transparency. I don't want reporting for the sake of reporting. I want reporting so I know that that one is good, and I want to ask how they did it, which, by the way, is all I really wanted from USGBC too. But but if I can't get it from them, I'm going to get it from GRESB.
Well, Owen asked a self-serving question. I'm going to ask, maybe this isn't self-serving. It's just
It's self-serving for both of us, Joel.
Yeah. Well, Owen likes to ask the self-serving question, Chris. We hear about Shine all the time on this podcast. It's actually just like out of in a curiosity. Like we don't, a lot of people don't get access to you like we do right now. I want to know, like, behind the curtain. So sometimes, again, back to some of the questions of like, well, why? If we talk to some asset manager or head of sustainability and we say like, hey, we had this great solution, maybe it's Owen's, we can do solar on multifamily and it's going to save, it's going to reduce it's going to increase your NOI, and it's a no-brainer. And like, well, I'm busy with GRESB. And then we say like, well, like, why are you doing GRESB? Well, our investors demand it. We have to. And like, well, okay, like, so that investor on the other side, that entity is mission driven. They want outcomes. They're telling you to do GRESB because they want to know that they're investing in someone that's making a difference. Like, so everything you said in the beginning, intent is all there. So I guess my question, long way of teeing this up, is like, who are the investors? And I'm using quotations. Like, your conversations with them, like, they want impact, right? They don't want GRESB score.
This is the weirdness that we find ourselves in right now. Is that I think we have a little bit of a crisis on the investor side, because I think what we're suffering from, and this is where it rests. We have a lot of investors, 150 so investor members, $8 trillion whatever dollars worth of investment in this space. I think that the prevailing logic is a capital allocation logic. There is a logic for a large group of influential members of investors that what they don't want to do is have capital allocation to high carbon assets. And what they really want to do is avoid, they want to be associated with currently green things. So why don't they want those solar panels? Why don't they want that energy efficiency? Because they don't want that part of the work. They want the already green asset to say, hey, whether they're responding to European regulation or something else, they are more comfortable saying, I'm going to buy that already green asset over there and just and use GRESB to make sure that I'm up there. Okay, great. We got to change that. And I'll call out investors who I think are doing it in a really positive way, like a PSP or a Macquarie. These are folks who I've seen good examples of them investing for improvement. They understand buy low, sell high. They are willing to put in on a GRESB 30 and then 3 years later get a GRESB 80 out of it, and have encouraged the management team to do the work that you were describing. We need more of that. That's about the investment strategy that they're asking for. So if an investor is out there asking, I'm using GRESB to say I have a 4-star minimum or a 5-star minimum, I honor that is a strategy. And I understand. And if you call them on it, they will say, I am avoiding climate risk.
Do you get to call them on it? I mean, not to put you on the spot. Like, you must be in these rooms where you get to have this
we've talked about it. And we say,
well,
what are you doing? Why do you do it that way? And they're saying, I am avoiding carbon risk, what they perceive to be carbon risk. I need to show that my portfolio is going down in carbon intensity over time. And I turn around and I'll say, look, I don't, why do you care your portfolio is decarbonizing? I want you to hold, you're a great manager. I want you to hold lots of carbon and reduce it over time.
Or, I mean, this person is the influential investor. They're the top of the food chain in its entire ecosystem. They don't have to do anything, right?
You would think, man, if you had $1 trillion on your balance sheet, you could do what we just talked about. Yeah. But we're in a world right now where some of those largest asset owners they've locked into a certain image. And I will give them, I will walk a mile in their shoes to say that European regulation and the way it works is encouraging that essentially divestment, that allocation. Okay, so that's not, but we can address that. That's not,
I mean, I got a good thing going to Cambio here, but if you need to insert me at the top of one of these $1 trillion investment entities, just, tell them you know a guy.
They are the masters of the universe, right? But we need to help them understand that this is why investing in real estate is different than investing in cars or ball bearings or consumer products. I think they're used to this idea that, hey, the way I invest in green cars is I just don't invest in internal combustion cars. I invest in electric cars, and I'm decarbonizing. That's not how buildings work.
Yeah.
The building doesn't go away because you didn't invest in it. Like, what happens? What happens when that top class asset owner or top class manager doesn't own it? It falls down the totem pole to someone with less capital, less skills, less capability. It doesn't go away from the face of the earth. And that's different than other classes. So I think trying to stick up for ourselves that we are different, we require different approaches, and good doesn't look like this down and to the right decarbonization curve from an investor's portfolio. I think that's hard for them to integrate. It's hard for them to compare, and so I am sympathetic. Like, I'm deeply sympathetic, but on the other hand, I don't want to sugarcoat that. I don't think that's the way forward.
Have you thought about using GRESB to, instead of ranking properties, rank owners?
I have. I have. It comes up all the time. I would admit that's a level of boldness that I'm not quite ready to do. But I do. What I would like to do is make it at least more transparent and praise and try to provide some recognition and feedback that there are more strategies. I don't think it's in our. I don't think that world responds well to being ranked in that way. But on the other hand, I do think we are creating a tool right now called Decarbonization Attribution, where we can show, if you look at a company, how much of your gains in decarbonization are from capital allocation or divestment versus asset improvement, and being able to separate those two. And actually, I have seen when we displayed that tool to investors, they're like, "Oh, that's cool," because they don't exactly know that. And even though in some ways it's them doing it at their portfolio, they don't know. And so I want to own that. Like, I think that we can do more to inform and nudge and at the end of the day, Owen, to come back on where you're going with the money is in the brown to green. Buy low, sell high. It's actually a really risky strategy to buy green, hold green, sell green, because you only have down. So I actually think I think we're going to win on the business case at the end of the day. Not all at once, but I think at the end of the day we win on the business case.
Yeah.
Well, you came into the Lion's Den, and you're changing hearts and minds here. The Let's Talk More Action crew. I think, is there a GRESB conference? Is there like a GRESB Foundation annual?
Well, the thing to look for is this is our season, so we don't do our own event, but we do hosted events around the world. So there's a link to a really nice map of what we call regional insights events, whether you're in San Francisco, in LA, Chicago, New York, there's going to be a regional event that you can sign up for and learn more about both everything I've said right now and where we're going and what's happening right now in the market.
Well, I was going to say you should have us keynote the event, but we'll work on that next year.
That's for the future, Joel.
Well, Chris, we're out of time. Super insightful. Again, really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot. Hopefully our audience did too. We'll continue to follow your work and root for the industry to get better together. But all this to be said, so you've been spending your life, your career in this industry. You've seen probably cycles where we're super optimistic, tailwinds, we're doing the thing. You've seen cycles where maybe it looks tough and the new cycles can be pessimistic. So in all that, teeing this up, last question, what gives you hope for the future?
All right, man. I mean, I won't sugarcoat. I mean, now is hard. This is hard. We're all in a hard moment, and there's uncertainty, and it's time of change. But I get through because I really do believe real estate and real estate people are special and they're different. And I'll just give you one anecdote from last week. I was at an event in downtown DC that Jason Hartke from IWBI put on, and he invited 40 now former federal leaders. These are folks who left government in the last 6 months, and they collectively have 500 years of real estate experience. And they are some amazing people, and they've all just migrated out. But I was looking around this room in DC last week, and I just was really almost got emotional at looking at this journey that we're all on. And what it really reinforced to me is the journey. Like, I love these people for what they've done, their service, but I also love for what they represent, their skills, their experience, and their contributions. And I'm like, hey, this is our tribe. we are in this together. We may have differences of opinions about how much action, how much talk, but I do think we're a tribe on a journey, and that does get me through. I know it sounds a little hokey, but looking around last week, I saw it, I felt it, and I have moments like that from time to time, and they do keep me going.
It's great to hear. See, Owen, a lot of hope for the future.
I'm the more optimistic one on this show.
All right. Well, Chris, we'll get you out of here on that. So thanks again. Anything to plug? So you plugged GRESB. You can go and find regional events. What else? Follow you on LinkedIn. How else can everyone
follow me on
along?
LinkedIn? Hey, even consider being a GRESB AP. Learn what it's all about. Don't even have to do the thing. Just learn about the thing. That's all I got for you.
You know, since we've been critical and now Chris set the record straight, maybe we should both commit to becoming GRESB APs, Owen.
I got a comp code for you.
Oh boy.
The best 3 hours of your life.
Well, I'll have, when we were in grad school, I had to carry Owen through the tough classes. So I'm just going to end up studying with him and having to help him pass the test. So I don't know.
Joel wrote most of my essays. So Joel
get a
may have
couple
to
of,
go back.
get a 6-pack of beer, a pizza, and just sit down and do it together. That's the way to go.
All right. I'm in.
All right.
If it comes with pizza and beer, I'm in.
Well, cool. Thank you,
That's on me.
Chris.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Good luck for the future of GRESB. So we're gonna wrap up. I want to thank Owen. We're gonna thank everyone for joining. You can usually find Owen and I also on LinkedIn, antagonizing the sustainability nerds. You can find this podcast and more great content at letstalkmoreaction.com. If you like the show, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And until next time, we encourage you to ask yourself, what are you doing to take action to make the world a better place?